Kansas wears the home whites as the better seed to start the tournament, and the Jayhawks with the first possession.
Diener on Heinrich. Puts Wade on Miles. He can give up some shots there, and Miles surprises everybody. Jim with the first two from the outside.
That's actually a three. Not what you expect from Miles.
Absolutely not. Great sign for Kansas.
Wade trying to work on Heinrich, gives it up Diener. Right back Wade, and the Jayhawks come out with it.
Excellent man-to-man defense that time by Miles and Heinrich. Diener give up a lot of size to Heinrich.
Miles, can he do it again?
That would really be surprising to hit two jumpers in a row.
Marquette's road, well, I'll tell you, there have been doubters every step of the way. Give this team credit. Defying what everyone felt would be, who knows, a Kentucky bracket, but to beat Holy Cross, Missouri, Pittsburgh, and then a thrashing of Kentucky in the final. What a strong regional by the Golden Eagles. Away from the ball, a push-off Colt against Graves of Kansas. The one thing, Billy, you said he's got to be careful for.
And there was one where he didn't get a reaching foul. Diener driving into the basket without the ball. Again, Jeff Graves has got to stay out of foul trouble early on. So far, Wade has been relatively passive against Heinrich.
That was tipped out by Graves.
Heinrich known for his great assist ability, but also as one of the best defensive guards in college basketball, particularly on the ball.
And how about the block of the Jason Gardner three at the end of the game last week at the West Regional?
And then having the presence of mind and staying right with Gardner and making sure that he didn't get a good look on that retrieve of that block shot.
Jason Gardner was here yesterday. A little shoot around for the NABC All-Stars, and it's not the way he wanted to make it to the Final Four floor. And he told me he thought that last three was in. He just certainly had made it.
Straight man-to-man defense. This is a good move. Go inside to Jackson, particularly with Graves picking up the first.
And they say it touched Jackson last.
Nice job by Graves to go over the top on Jackson. But if you're Marquette, boy, you ought to attack inside quickly, particularly since Graves picked up that easy foul.
First two trips for Marquette, 2 turnovers.
Collison has not touched it in the low post either. Diener gets caught on a screen.
Heinrich off the rim with the jumper. There's Wade. Going inside, Jackson. Graves wipes it away.
Graves doesn't have tremendous leaping ability inside, but he's got the wide body.
They say it was last touched by Marquette. It's going to Kansas.
Again, I'm surprised that Collison hasn't touched the ball inside. Here he goes.
Langford loves to drive, and he delivers.
Bad defense by Townsend gave the baseline drive. We've all seen Langford, a tremendous slasher to the basket.
First 5 to Kansas.
Nice help.
No pass, but
if you're Wade right now, you've got to get your hands on the ball and try to create something offensively. Get a screen, get him loose. Here he goes.
Side jumper in and out, and Collison takes it away. Townsend with the misfire. Miles will take the baseline, and inside it's Marquette coming out with Merritt.
Jackson running the floor pretty well for a big man.
Diener back to the rim, tipped around. Townsend, Merritt again, right over Collison. With Marquette's first 2.
Good interior passing there, Jim, but I thought maybe they might have made one pass too many. It gave Collison a chance to react. He couldn't get to the ball.
Lob it. Graves, yes. Langford with the assist.
Excellent back screen by Kansas to get it open. Right now,
Graves is down. Graves
twisted his ankle.
Yeah, it may have landed awkwardly, but he doesn't want to be taken out.
Jim, if he'd weighed 290 pounds the way he started the Kansas practices in early fall, that ankle would never have recovered, but the young man has gotten in condition, and he wants to stay in this ball game.
Kansas, the West Regional champs. They had 2 games where the opponent had a 3-point tying attempt. That includes the first-round game against a feisty Utah State team. They took care of Arizona State, Duke, and Arizona.
And of course, in the Big 12 tournament, leading up to this NCAA tournament, didn't make it to the finals. They were beaten by Missouri. We have an official who was stunned down at the end of the court when Graves fell, and he's just trying to get himself back together.
There you see the officials, and he too just needed a standing 8 count, and he's ready to go.
Pick up full court. Nice job by Miles. Jim, again, I'm going to have to say, Wade has got to be more aggressive here. I realize he's quite the team player, a very balanced offensive player, but he's got to recognize in a game like this, he's got to step up.
He's not taking a shot to this point. Now push off on Miles, who fouled out of that last game against Arizona.
And that is where Roy Williams was fortunate to have the likes of Lee to come in the ball game and really do the job defensively for Kansas. But we're talking about a Kansas team that basically is 7 deep.
People were saying all season long that depth would do them in. It has not been the case at all in this tournament.
Well,
lack of depth.
One of the things, Jim, we can remember in 1982, the team that won the national championship with Dean Smith, Roy Williams was an assistant there, and that basically was a 5-man team with limited substitutions, able to win a national championship.
Here's Wade's first attempt, and yes, it's a 2.
Well, you like a player that is a team player as Wade is, but he has to recognize what his role's got to be in this game. He has got to take a leadership position early. Giving Kansas the credit for having been to a Final Four before really helps him experience-wise.
Well, Heinrich got a great screen from Collison, but off on the jumper. Diener at the other end with a 3.
A lot of confidence by Diener to pull up and take that 3 without anybody under.
Kansas pushes it up, and Langford lays it in.
Well, we talk about pushing the ball up the floor. Kansas does it as well as anybody. Tom Crean has to be upset with that.
There's Wade turnaround.
Tough shot.
Townsend kept it alive. Merritt tipped up by Jackson. And Wade, he's back on his feet, but Kansas has a 1-man advantage, and Miles quickly at the other end and 1.
Wade seems to be all right. How about the fact Kansas, again, pushing the ball up the floor. Miles off to a very good start offensively. We'll see the tip. The ball is outside the cylinder, but a grabbing onto the basket that could have been called for some interference here. See, the ball is outside the cylinder, but what we had right there was a Marquette, and I think it was Wade.
It was Wade. It was Wade.
The officials could have called that.
Graves goes out of the game, and Kansas brings in Bryant Nash.
Nash, who has played extremely well coming off the bench, is a great leaper on the inside, gives up a lot of size here, but can really get in the air. Jim, I think back in 1974, of course, the big talk in Greensboro, North Carolina was the NC State UCLA matchup. But in that other side, there was Al McGuire's Marquette team that did beat a Kansas team. Went on to lose in that final to NC State, where Al said, I had a terrible coaching game. Had 2 technicals in that game. David Thompson improved the champions.
Diener driving, kicks it out. Townsend with a 3. Chased down by Marquette. And that's tipped out, and it'll be Marquette ball. That's the only time Marquette has ever beaten Kansas. Kansas winning the other 6 matchups.
Jim, here we have the game 5 minutes old, and we have Townsend has taken more shots than Wade. That's not what you want if you're Marquette.
Wade underneath. Tough shot. Langford comes in to collect it for Kansas.
And again, pushing the ball up the floor goes Kansas. They're so good at it.
Collison with a tap. Merritt sweeps it away.
Collison would like to have that one back with a 2-handed catch.
Here's Townsend again. And he's going to the line.
That's going to be on Nash, Jim.
So Nash is first. 2 for Townsend.
One of the things about this Marquette team, not only their outstanding 3-point shooting in the tournament, but they've been a very good free throw shooting team as well.
77% on the season. And Michael Lee, what a tournament boost he has been. And Graves returns to the Kansas lineup.
Graves comes back in with just one foul, so in pretty good shape if you're Kansas. I was wondering who was going to pick up Jackson with Graves out of the ball game.
Well, here comes the super sub on the Marquette side. We're talking about Novak.
Well, we got a 2-2-1 full court press right now by Marquette. Nice recognition.
Inside Graves. Jackson, no call. Novak knocks it off of Graves smartly, and it's Marquette's.
Excellent passing by Kansas and a great block by Jackson. He was a third-team All-SEC as a junior at Mississippi State. So we're not just talking about a transfer that couldn't play.
You're talking out of that league.
Absolutely. Great fake by Wade.
Got Kansas to commit, so they'll go to the line.
Wade plays under control. It's really interesting. We look at him now, Jim, without question, first-team All-American. And looking back through his high school career, he was the seventh leading vote getter for Mr. Illinois basketball. So here we are 3 years ago. That's what people thought of him as a prospect in high school. And here we are today as one of the premier players in college basketball.
That foul a moment ago was on Heinrich. And Wade, just a junior, first-team All-America, a Conference USA Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in this league.
Pretty nice combination, isn't it?
Oh, you got to love that. 12-12 on the board here in New Orleans.
Well, if you're Kansas, the first thing you want to do right now is let Collison touch the ball. Zone defense now by Marquette. 2-3 zone. Takes a little bit away from the idea I had in mind to get Collison that ball inside.
Langford, he's open, lays it in.
And again, there was Collison, much like he was against Arizona's 1-3-1 defense. He's such a decoy in there. He occupied 2 men in that zone, opened up the lane.
Langford has 6 for Kansas. Novak,
great shooter.
Can he ever? Not this time, though, and Collison's the man underneath.
Again, the Jayhawks trying to get numbers.
Pull up 3, Heinrich.
They break so well, and particularly now that Marquette's in the zone defense, Heinrich took advantage. Great change of dribble.
And Wade will count that basket.
Wow, what a first step by Wade on that crossover.
Roy Williams right by. He was saying, wait a minute, I was traveling.
Yeah, well, there it is. I'm not going to be able to travel on that one. That's just a great crossover dribble, and Roy better put a hat on. He's going to catch a cold over there if he's going to get that close to Wade on that drive.
That is a lightning fast first step.
Yeah, that's where you get a hat on.
Collison off the miss.
There goes soft hands of Collison on that rebound.
And Lee takes the 3. Yes.
Again, a very unselfish play here. Any team that gets to this point has got to be unselfish. But Kansas always, they have a heritage of giving that ball up.
And Lee, after Heinrich forced the steal.
That was probably a pretty good foul by Sanders, because Kansas had the numbers. Heinrich was on the floor. Sanders went right over the top of him. Kansas probably could have scored on that play. So a good foul, if there ever is such a thing.
Terry Sanders just in with his first foul. Aaron Miles will take out Langford, who's not ready to sit.
Langford off as he can, Jim. We talked about a guy, number 3 scorer on this team, averaging right at about 16 points, 15-6 a game, but capable of having a huge game as he did against Arizona earlier this year with 20 points in the first half.
Yeah, he's got a good start going here already as well. He'll take a breather, and the Jayhawks.
Nice.
Heinrich, make sure he's on behind the 3-line. Yes.
Collison and Heinrich, 2 guys that were co-Mr. Basketball in high school in Iowa, played together for so long, just had a feel for themselves there.
Forces Marquette to take the timeout. Inside Merritt. Too strong from right inside.
Now with Lee and Heinrich in the game, Lee taking off. Miles trying to make the perfect pass, probably didn't have it there.
Big 12 with 2 teams for the 2nd straight year at the Final Four.
Jim, it's kind of interesting. 17 times 2 or more teams from the same conference have gotten into the NCAA tournament. All started back in '76. with that great Indiana-Michigan combination. We've actually had it 5 straight years now. 2 teams from the same conference have gotten into this Final Four.
Novak stepping over. Missed his first 2 from out there.
Pretty good job on a closeout that by Lee. They're going to charge right at him and make him put the ball on the floor. Good defensive strategy.
Heinrich. Collison helped out, and Heinrich missed the chipping.
Second time tonight, Kansas has had the block out on the baseline. Layups were missed.
Sanders keeps it in Marquette's hands. There's Wade spinning. Collison clears. Here comes Kansas running. Heinrich. And Marquette now with its largest deficit of the tournament.
Heinrich went down. It must be a little slippery around that basket. Heinrich had the tough fall there. Remember Graves earlier, and one official went down there.
Wade, tough shot. Sanders with the putback.
No block out. Wade now understanding what he's got to do. He's got to take over this ball game. Marquette's going to get back into it.
Well, Diener trying to save it and trying to call a timeout.
His teammates all caught him on the side. Talk about good teamwork. He tried to call timeout, and he crashed into somebody. It might have been knee to knee over there, limping a little bit.
Never got the timeout. The Kansas ball.
I don't think they said he had control of it, taking it out there with him, Jim, so he never got that timeout call. Heinrich's going to go out. He had a little slip, stubborn a little bit. He takes it with me, tries to get the timeout. See, he didn't have control of the ball.
Bradley, number 10, has come in for Marquette. And Diener to the bench.
Seeing a lot of guys with some bumps and bruises early in this ball game. Fortunately, nobody hurt that looks like they're going to miss that much playing time. But down this end of the floor, guys are getting knocked. There's that back screen for Collison. Doesn't work out. Marquette goes back to the man-to-man. Should get Collison open.
Sanders jumps. Collison patient, and another 2 for Kansas.
That's a good statement, Jim. When first-team All-American are patient, as Collison was against Arizona and has been so far tonight, they will eventually explode. Big overplay.
Before this one tonight, Marquette's biggest deficit of the tournament was 9. Down 9 at one time against Pitt. They faced their largest deficit of the NCAAs, 11.
Well, they are not giving Wade much to look at, are they?
Got too strong. Tipping. Look at Collison controlling inside.
And with that controlling on the defensive glass, Kansas can get running.
Langford, he now has 8.
Another player down, and I think if I'm Tom Crean, I talk about cleaning up this floor. It is very slippery down on this end. It'd be a way to slow this game down a little bit also, to bring it to the attention of the officials.
Novak from the corner.
0 for 3.
Over the back on Wade.
Right now, Kansas totally in control of this basketball game. It's going to be interesting to watch Wade here now, Jim. You know, despite the fact that he's a great player, he really only has, this is his 2nd year of playing college basketball because he sat out a year. The experience factor of whether he realizes what it's going to take for a great player to step up, you're going to have to see it in the next 9 minutes of this first half.
He's hit 2 of 6 from the field. Marquette as a team, 29%.
Man-to-man now by Marquette. They've tried a zone as well as man-to-man. Collison inside open. Sanders no match for Collison, and Kansas doing the right thing, going right to their All-American center.
Timeout Marquette.
Jim, they had 6 in. They have 2 left, have an 11-3 record all told in the NCAA tournament. So without question, their report card, the best in the country.
This Kansas team was the team of the regular season for its conference. You look at the full body of work. They won the league.
It's amazing. Marquette here in the Final Four has been out-rebounded 3 times and tied in rebounds once in the 4 games that got them here, and Kansas taking advantage of that now.
And on the way up, foul here on Marquette. Diener with the foul, 2 for Heinrich, and a former co-MVP, as you said, Billy, Mr. Basketball at Iowa, with his teammate Collison, his Kansas teammate. That Iowa pipeline started by Rafe LaFrance Coming up big here at the start of this one today, 33-16.
Well, what you love about the young man, he came back brilliantly against Arizona after going 1 for 9 against Duke.
Miles almost got out there from behind. Diener. Merritt in and out. Well, it's Kansas just controlling it. Collison with 8 rebounds in this game.
He's like an octopus in there. He has such great hands.
Miles with the short jumper. Tipped out. Kansas will control.
Right now, you see the experience of Kansas looking like it's paying off. Marquette is a frazzled state right now, both on the offensive and the defensive end.
First foul on Merritt.
They're shooting over 65%, but Kansas set a new school NCAA record of shooting 67.8 in their explosive win against Arizona State, and they're picking up right where they left off in that game.
It's starting to look like that game right now.
That's right.
Their second round win.
The last loss that Kansas had was against Missouri, a team that this Marquette club beat in overtime in this NCAA tournament. So they're certainly capable of not getting it done so far.
Heinrich with the 3. Inside, it's Langford.
He is a quiet slasher. Doesn't have the size, but knows how to get good position. And right now, Kansas' rebounding prowess is really causing Marquette problems on both ends.
Diener driving on Miles. And Jackson secures it, puts it back.
You don't find Collison have the ball taken away from him often, but he did there.
His first 2. Langford this time outside. Again.
And again, Jim, just beating Marquette down the floor before the defense gets set. Kansas gets a good look. Great execution by Kansas in this first half.
Diener off the screen. Out to Miles, and Langford will put this one away.
Great leaper, and what you have there is Diener trying to take over the game, as I said that Wade should try to do, who's not on the floor now, trying to do too much against a Kansas team that knows how to help out on screens.
It's a 21-point lead. Langford has 14. Jackson will try to make his moves on Collison. Gives it up, Diener.
That's a big break right there. Jackson with nice hands on the inside.
A tip, Merritt, second try to the line.
He's a young man that committed as a sophomore in high school to Iowa State, thinking he was going to play for Tim Floyd, and when Tim Floyd left, it opened up the door for Kansas, and they've been really lucky with that.
Collison, and they've won 112 games in their 4-year careers. That's 28 wins a season.
I thought a great move this year was with Eddie Sutton in the Oklahoma State game, walked down in front of both benches and shook both of their hands as far as a compliment and a class act, how well they have played and the class they've handled themselves with in the Big 12. And what Roy Williams has the opportunity right now is to rest Collison, keep guys out of foul trouble, and the few turnovers in his half for Kansas.
Here's Wade inside Jackson.
Beautiful pass by Wade.
Boy, Wade just glides around that floor.
Maybe being a little bit too unselfish in this first half. Now with Collison out, Kansas doesn't have that same inside presence.
Miles.
Third time today, Jim, Kansas has set the screen on the baseline. That time, Miles delivered. They missed 2 layups earlier. Nice job by Graves.
Miles with 8 points in his first half and opened the game with a big 3.
Miles has had problems shooting, but nobody questions his ability on defense, and he's on Diener right now.
Graves denying the pass inside to Jackson.
And doing it without a foul.
Nash with a pick outside on Wade. It sets up Langford, only his second miss. Nash. Wow.
Didn't realize how open he was. Good defense.
Chapman trying to work something out. Every pass challenged.
Nobody helping Graves. Here's where he picks up foul trouble, and Jackson had to call a timeout.
And that's the 7th team foul, so a 1-and-1 for Jackson.
I think Roy Williams would get Graves out of there. Graves stepped in the line, got in there a little early. The officials didn't say anything. I'm surprised Roy Williams is leaving him in there. He's got 5 minutes to go in the half. You sure don't want him picking up his 3rd. Quite a gamble here.
2 for 2, Jackson. He has 8.
7 double-doubles on the year for Jackson. And we're back to the 2-3 zone again.
Collison to Heinrich in the corner. Chapman, who's just come in, trying to stay with him.
Look at where Jackson is. He's way out of position here. There should be somebody open under the basket.
Yeah, we'll switch off with Chapman.
Yep.
Now Lee with Wade on him. And on the line, they're going to say it was touched by Wade, so it'll be Kansas ball.
Wade, such a cool basketball player.
He picked up the ball and just launched a shot.
It almost hit a half-court shot right there, thinking that the ball was going to Marquette. Let's watch this defense. It's a 2-3 setup, but they're trapping all over the floor. 5 on the shot clock. And now 2 on the shot clock. Jayhawks inbound. Time for a pass, catch, and shot. Heinrich should get out there as far as he can. Get a solid screen. He's going to come off a double screen, looking to get a quick catch and shoot. Lob. Collison. Oh, that should have been a foul on Diener. He went underneath Collison. Pretty well executed play. Roy Williams wanted it. Watch Diener go down underneath here. He knows what he's doing. There's the block out underneath Collison. No foul call. Wade over Lee. Wow, tough shot, but he soared through the air for a 2. Jimmy's waited a little bit too long to put it in gear. Lee, 3. You can't trade baskets now if you're Marquette. Especially 2s for 3s. Right, they haven't found a defense yet to stop this quick push up the floor by Kansas. Novak. Boy, for the great sub, it's been a tough start, and over the back on Jackson. Boy, give Graves credit. Terrific block out on his part without having won a national championship. Eddie Sutton in that mix, potentially to go in the Hall of Fame this time, Jim. Yes, they'll announce the inductees for 2003 here in New Orleans on Monday. There's that 2-3 zone. Langford, he has the touch tonight. He has now 16. What he did is he came right in behind the zone so that the man defending didn't realize he was there, and then a terrific reverse dribble. Kansas has stayed in their man-to-man this entire game. Wade blocked. Jackson. Don't fault Graves in that when he made the block. Jackson was his man. Graves still on the floor with the 2 fouls. And that surprises me. Graves had inside position on Wade. Didn't touch the ball. A solid screen. Wade out of position completely. Good job by Graves. Heinrich, another look. This time good. Jim, what do you find? A team that can win a national championship will have guys that all of a sudden, for some reason, start playing smart. And Graves has been that man for Kansas. Complete change in the way he's approached the game the last few weeks. Particularly against Arizona and this first half today. And there again, Graves did not commit the foul. Jackson expected body contact, misses an easy one. And they still push it up. You can count on that. Collison, soft roll. And that's the distance that Nick Collison will take that shot. Marquette has had no answers defensively. And that's the largest lead of the game. It's up to 23. Jim, Novak is the #1 3-point percentage shooter in Conference USA at 48%. He hasn't had one all day. Look at that explosion. Just bursting out of the pack. Langford, reach in Novak. They say it was in the act of shooting. No answers for Marquette, and Kansas just showing how well they push the ball up the floor. Coming up, Billy, we've got Singular at the half with Greg Clark and Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo. Complete first half analysis and the presentation of the Chevrolet Player of the Year and Coach of the Year coming up on Singular at the half. Langford with a huge half. The Fort Worth, Texas native. Huge throng coming over from Fort Worth. They had to back
charter a bus to bring all the friends and family.
Jim,
over.
I think the major difference between these two teams is the fact that most of the guys in the Kansas team last year were in a Final Four where they lost to Maryland. It seems like Marquette really hasn't adjusted to being in the big picture here today at any time in this half.
Look at Heinrich, so far out. Tipped around, Collison, put back.
Left hand, good hands. Deflating whatever confidence Marquette had.
No for Diener, Langford for Kansas.
Second time he's grabbed the rebound, pushed the ball up the floor himself.
Miles passes up the three, and he'll go to the line. Novak with his second. Miles to shoot two.
And Jim, Miles showed us there that something that he may have to do. You assume Kansas now is ready to move on that final, but he has got to show that he's got confidence that he can hit that jumper. He had the wide open jumper, penetrated inside, got by with it by getting fouled, but you've got to see when you get that open jumper that you can take it and make it. Again, second time today he's picked up.
How many times you've seen a national semifinal with a team leading by 27 in the first half?
Well, I have seen one by more when Michigan State had Penn down, but I didn't expect this to happen here in this half. I did expect Michigan State to give Penn a pretty good going over. That's way back in 1979.
Gave Wade the basket at that end. Langford trying to battle. Jackson instead pulls it away. Diener lost the handle.
No place to go.
Oh, yeah. Here's Heinrich at the other end.
No place for Diener to go. The numbers were all Kansas way. There again, a sign of inexperience. Roy Williams still firing his team up. You'd think he'd be sitting over there relaxing a little bit.
Novak, three.
He has not made a shot today. We're talking about the best outside shooter in Conference USA.
For a 30-point lead. Collison lays it in on the follow-up. Just got a double-double in the first half.
Just like a pass.
3 seconds and a half. Inside, nope, shot. Townsend off the mark.
Jim, with the exception of the Notre Dame game in the 5 losses that Marquette has this year, and they lost to Notre Dame by 21 on the road, their losses have been by 3, 7, 3, and 7. So not even double digits. This is a whole new experience for this young team.
Second highest first half point total at a Final Four. Second to UCLA back in 1965.
Heinrich on Wade.
Wade inside, bouncing around into the hands of Merritt. And Collison again. Those huge mitts, great hands, good pass. Miles to Heinrich.
Boy, that was a great outlet pass. Looks like Graves hurt himself again. He's holding his wrist. And that was Collison again with those great hands. And Kansas on the run, no matter whether it's off a steal or off a rebound.
And Graves picks up his third.
Probably what Marquette should have done earlier.
They just keep running and running it to perfection.
Miles set a record at Kansas for freshman assists last year. And he and Heinrich know how to run that 2-on-1 break to perfection.
Diener spins away, thinks he has an open look, and another Jayhawk comes in on him.
That was Langford coming over to help out, realizing that Miles had been in the air.
Merritt. And look at the Jayhawks box out.
Again, a hit ahead by Collison.
Graves inside. And Merritt tied him up with the arrow. Everything right down to the arrow going to Kansas.
But again, that excellent passing by Kansas inside.
Got 25 made baskets and 17 of them with assists.
Absolutely.
How about that ratio?
Terrific passing, whether it be on the break or in the half-court set. How about how patient Collison has been offensively? He doesn't get what he wants the first time. Didn't know Jackson was coming from the weak side.
7 seconds on the shot clock. You think that first half by Marquette had anything to do with the jitters of being on this stage?
Well, obviously, they had no experience, any of these players, in playing in a Final Four before. A big advantage for Kansas, but I never thought that they would come out the way that they did, particularly from a shooting standpoint.
Miles has to beat the shot clock. Oh, one goes down as well.
Well, Jim, remember how he started this game, hitting a three, a little bit more of a traditional three, and when Miles is hitting threes, you're really in trouble.
Wade doubled up. Wrap-around pass. Jackson swarmed. Out to the Jayhawks. 2-on-1.
Diener's tired of seeing this.
Foul on Marquette.
Jim, we're going to take a look from the outside. A young man that doesn't take them very often from the outside. Miles only shooting 23% from three on the year, has only taken 92 of them. But today, he's buried 2 of them.
He's hit 2 out of 3 from out there. Heinrich with 1 more. That was the second foul on Diener.
Well, Diener has been backpedaling this second half, just trying to stop that fast break from coming at him. Green on the sidelines, trying to get his team back into some semblance of order.
And right away comes to Langford.
Just nothing working for the young coach from Marquette. He's done such a great job turning that program around, bringing it the luster. It's the first time that they have won Conference USA regular season. But they are having a rough time today in every phase of the game. Nice pump fake.
Off the glass for 2. Wade.
He's having a solid game, Jim, because he's not really forcing anything. Miles has been the man offensively. Nobody even stopped him.
There's Merritt, a little soft shot. Well, actually too strong. Quick outlet. Miles goes right past him.
Connor's got to call a timeout right here. Get his club back in some semblance of order, Jim. They have lost all sense of confidence in this game.
It has gone from bad to worse.
And is a club that, as you pointed out, had beaten the champions this year. And you'd say, how could this team have actually controlled Kentucky?
Well, I was
playing better than anybody in the country up to that point.
I was going to say, as hard as it is to watch for Marquette fans, can you imagine what Kentucky is feeling like right now watching this?
Well, the only thing that would resemble this team and the team Kentucky played is they were playing in the same uniforms. Other than that, they wouldn't recognize anything.
And, you know, giving Marquette its due, I mean, it didn't just defeat Kentucky.
That's what I'm saying. They controlled that ball game. Stopped the team that all of us believe was the best in the country up to that point.
This fast break offense, Kansas from the get-go.
There we see the 2-on-1 break. The great hit aheads. This one off the steal for Langford. Kansas breaking out of every opportunity. It's been the complete difference in this ball game.
Inside, Langford comes over to help out.
As I said, no matter what the situation. Good job by Sanders getting back.
Last touch by Diener.
But you notice how often, Jim, Marquette never even has an opportunity to set up their 5-man defense. It's always Kansas with the numbers on the break.
%60% from the field.
Heinrich and Collison with their experience, so patient.
Miles, just from the start. 18 from Miles.
Collison and Heinrich setting the stage, and Miles having the big offensive game today. There's those hedge moves that Roy Williams was talking about, doing a great job on those double teams. And the other thing that I really don't understand is why Wade is sitting so much in this ball game. I don't think there's any way Marquette can come back, but you want to have him on the floor as many minutes as he can play.
touch by Kansas. The under-16 timeout. You know, the question everybody's been wanting to have answered this week, what about Roy Williams to North Carolina? He won't touch it here. He will not answer that question. But people speculating, boy, this is going to make the Jayhawks lose focus with all this talk circulating about Roy in North Carolina. Hardly the case.
I think that question is not to have to worry about being answered. Have they lost focus? I don't think so. Here they come again.
Stolen away. Marquette with a rare break. And Wade.
How smooth is Wade?
He's about as smooth as you'll see. Lead to Langford. What an unselfish play there.
This game does remind me an awful lot of that Michigan State Penn game where Michigan State was leading at halftime 50-17. They eventually won by 34. Magic Johnson had the triple-double in that game. But this game has been a team game for everybody playing a terrific role for Kansas.
It reminds me of a game I saw right here at the Superdome. And that was Montana throwing 5 touchdowns in Super Bowl 24. 55-10 over Denver.
Now, if you're Roy Williams right now, what you don't want your team to do is to get in a trading baskets game. You want to start planning for the next game. And I'll tell you what, he will start to try to ride this team to get him ready. Wade got hit in the mouth. He's down the other end of the floor. The officials don't see it. Now they do.
And Roy Williams has come out onto the floor. He was during the middle of that trying to get the officials to come over.
Does Wade catch an elbow here? Well, he just got smacked by Collison right at the bridge of the nose. You see it right here. Got it with part of the wrist right into his nose. He's still down on the floor. A young man who is a terrific basketball player. As we said, first team All-American, Conference's Player of the Year in Conference USA, Conference Defensive Player of the Year. It's a very smooth player. But today, and I think it will come with experience, he has to learn how to take over a game early. He'll have to come out here. Young man who's married, has a child, sat out the first year at Marquette, not that heavily recruited. But he is quite a talent.
Married his high school sweetheart. We saw that story from Greg and Clark and the crew. Pre-game show. You talked about the triple doubles in tournament history. The start, and Wade joined. Look the names he joined. Magic and Andre Miller, who took that Utah team off that regional final performance all the way to the final.
Second nice feed by Bradley on the inside. This game is not in doubt, so it's a matter now, if you're Roy Williams, you got to start playing for Monday night and get your team to stay focused, not trade baskets or get sloppy. Novak would like to hit one. For a guy that shoots as well as he does from 3, he just hasn't been able to get anything open.
And a bump of the body. Call it on Lee, I believe. No, Collison. His second.
Jackson, who has been obviously a great addition to Marquette. We talked about him transferring out of Mississippi State. Had the big-time game against Kentucky, 10 for 16, 24 points, 15 rebounds against the Kentucky Wildcats. The team that, up to that point, had really done a fine job against Postman.
Graves back. Heinrich in. Wade, you got to think he'll be coming back in just a few.
Well, you see what Roy Williams is doing. We talked about the short bench that he has, but he wants to keep people's legs fresh for Monday night. And a lot of time to play in this game, so there's a lot of chance for Kansas to get sloppy. And that's one thing you have to fear as a coach with this kind of working margin.
You wonder how much, though, you're willing to give up on sloppiness to get your, since you don't have that great depth, get these guys a lot of time on the bench and save them for Monday. Mike local lead.
I think we'll see that under the 10-minute mark, given maybe Heinrich and Collison some breaks, as he's given Collison some right now. There's Collison's defensive ability. Diener just can't stay with him, and this time Diener gets hit in the nose. And here you're playing for pride if you're Marquette. Had a terrific season. Obviously, everything has gone wrong in this game. And Kansas just totally outplaying them. You look up at the scoreboard as a coach and you say, okay, guys, we're down by 40. Let's get it down to 30. I mean, that's the way you got to look at it.
That's
play for pride.
That's not a speech he's had to make before.
No. That's not a speech that he hopes he ever has to talk about in his life again.
That's right.
And you know who's got to really be dying? Sitting up there with us is Tom Izzo. Watching his former assistant coach this ball game and say, I don't want to be there either.
Locked away by Kansas. Still hungry. And finally, Merritt inside.
And there's Nash giving up some power inside. Merritt giving him a good shoulder check as well.
Lee.
Young man having an excellent tournament as Lee. We saw the great defense on J.J. Redick of Duke that took Redick out of that ball game and probably changed the complexion of Duke's offense completely. Doing it at both ends of the floor.
He's the 5th Jayhawk in double figures with 11 now. Jackson. And it's Langford.
Well, what you like to see, Marquette is hustling. They're battling.
Kansas has been working with this, well, basically working with a 2-to-1 advantage on the scoreboard for most of the game. They've hit their last 9 shots.
Well, they didn't shoot but 76% in the second half. They were 22 for 29 against Arizona State, so just more of the same here.
Novak works his way free, and he's on the board.
Novak.
His first 2.
Nash can go by. The explosive leaper. Not there.
Trying to go to Graves.
Saying that that's not the case at all. I go back to experience, but a couple of things statistically. The great fast breaking of Kansas. The other thing, too, against Kentucky, when Marquette stopped their 26-game streak, they were 10 for 19 from 3. Today, they have not been able to buy anything outside the arc. Here it becomes again. If you're Kansas, it's a matter of execution. Just play solid basketball.
That's against Kansas. Number 4 on Graves.
And Roy Williams livid with Graves, trying to make a play that was not there. Collison's going to come back in. Graves will sit down.
How mad can you get at a guy when you're 39 points up?
Well, I think if you're a good coach, what you're trying to do right now, and Roy Williams certainly is a great coach, you're trying to keep your team in a concentration mood. Not to look at the score, not to lose sight of what's ahead.
Merritt, nice shot.
Again, with a little pickup, full court, zone trap, slows Kansas down slightly. But with Miles, you've got to be careful. He'll break that trap with the dribble, and then you'll have numbers for Kansas. Marquette back in a little matchup 2-3 zone.
Miles back out. Collison, 5 on the shot clock.
Good hands.
That was Townsend.
Got a little piece of it to Townsend.
Diener inside, and he's clobbered. Wow. 1 out of 9 from the field is Diener.
Well, Diener has had his problems, as I said, in the last 2 games. He had played so well offensively in the first 2 tournament games for Marquette, but he was 2 for 8 against Pitt and 1 for 6 from 3 against Kentucky, 2 for 8 on the game. So he is 4 for 16 coming into the Final Four in the last 2 games. He's going to sit down now.
Well, you saw Wade come on the floor. He's back.
Here's his 2-2-1 full court trap. But as I said, you give Miles the ball against it.
And Wade comes in, almost makes a steal. Instead, called for the foul.
Marquette ball was called at number 3, Wade.
Well, Roy Williams is on his way to his first win at a Final Four since his first game in the Final Four when he beat his mentor, Dean Smith, at the 1991 Final Four in Indianapolis.
Well, that was historic in some respects because Dean Smith did not coach the final minutes of that game.
That's right.
He was thrown out of that ball game. Bill Guthridge took over from that point. I'm sure Roy Williams didn't want to see that happen.
Good box out by Novak. Went on to play Duke in the final in Indianapolis. First championship for Mike Krzyzewski. And Roy, after that win in his first Final Four game, lost his next 3 all to ACC teams.
Well, to his alma mater, North Carolina, in '93, where he was the only non-number 1 seeded team in that tournament.
Yeah, Duke in the '91 final, North Carolina in '93, and a year ago, Maryland in the semifinals.
Oh, Langford again just blows by Townsend.
And it's not going to count the basket. It was way outside on Townsend.
People, I think, that guard Langford underestimate that first step of his. He really explodes to the basket.
4 changes in the Marquette lineup, including Joe Chapman. Jackson back on the floor as well, and Diener. And Sanders.
There is a walk violation on Miles, not called. Langford again.
Langford.
23 for Langford.
He just seems to be able to find those cracks, doesn't he, Jim?
Entire game. That is his specialty, though.
Yep.
Playing so much bigger than his 6'4" size. Wade cuts through, got caught underneath. Marquette ball.
Beautiful move by Langford, using obviously his strong hand, his left hand, to put it away.
He's made 11 out of 13.
Pretty efficient.
Tremendous wingspan you saw right there. 3 on the shot clock. Diener, no one there. Collison out, and Graves back on the floor.
Here's the 2-2-1 full court press again.
Backcourt scoring, that's a small advantage, huh? 70-19.
And here you see the zone. After that, full court zone trap. Nice pass inside.
Tipped up by Nash. Jackson clears.
How about the way Lee made room for himself with his shoulders? Really a powerful young man.
Wade, and a reach in on Kansas.
Wade, a really good crossover dribble. Whether right hand or left, keeps the ball low to the floor. And with his quickness, it's a tough move to stop.
That's on Langford, his first. Wade will shoot at 1-1, 17 fouls. Yes, this Marquette team facing those doubters every step of the way. I can't tell you how many people, when the pairings came out, said, you know, I think Holy Cross might be the first round Cinderella. You know, they did put up a great performance there, the Crusaders, in that first
2 years
game.
in a row for Holy Cross. And you got to remember, in Conference USA tournament, this Marquette team was beaten by UAB in the first round that they played. So, you know, it's not surprising.
And then everybody said, I like Missouri in the second round.
Absolutely.
It was overtime thriller.
Then you had to like Pitt.
It had,
and then you definitely were taking Kentucky.
They're not going to beat Pitt. They can't beat Kentucky.
Well, the answer for the person that said it's got to stop somewhere, they had that straight, and they ran into the Jayhawks today.
Second on Sanders. Graves to the line. Of course, so many people heard the story this week about Marquette in a league game coming down to New Orleans and taking on Tulane. And Coach Crean diverting the bus driver to the Superdome, where he brought his team in, take a look at the arena, to again try to get them to visualize the idea of coming back here to New Orleans for the Final Four. There, of course, was no basketball floor down at that time. It was just all concrete.
Yep.
And someone from the Superdome took him over, showed him where the benches will be.
There was a timeout on the floor.
Keith Langford with a game-high 23 for Kansas. And this was a kid coming out of high school in Texas, not very highly recruited. Many people thought at 6'4", just not big enough to play in the Big 12, but came off the bench as a freshman last year, had his coming-out party with 20 against Oregon in the Sweet 16 as a starter this year, obviously becoming that number 3 scoring option Kansas was worried about losing with Wayne Simeon down.
All right, Bonnie inside, Merritt with the putback. Wayne Simeon with shoulder surgery last week in New York City. He was not able to be with the team out of the West Regional, just not able to observe from the bench, but he's here today. Oh, nice move by Merritt.
Lost the handle on that ball going up, Jim, and you can see Marquette really showing their competitive nature right now. They're playing hard despite the fact they're totally out of this ball game.
Going to call it on Chapman, and when a game gets this lopsided, you start thumbing through the books to see where this one might rank in the annals of Final Fours. And the all-time record, I'm a little surprised that it's only 34, but that Michigan State Penn game you brought up, in fact, Michigan State in that game, that's the last time a team scored 100 points in a Final Four game.
That was 101 to 67. They were leading at halftime 50 to 17. I remember, I think Dick Enberg and I, well, actually Dick, who made all the calls, Jim, said, okay, Al, this is your kind of broadcast. Take over. And he proceeded to entertain people for the entire second half.
I know you've enjoyed, though, the week, how much it's brought back to so many people, the great warm stories of Al McGuire and your special friendship with the Marquette legend.
Well, I'll tell you what, we could use him right now here to entertain us for this second half, I can tell you that. I'll never forget Al in 1977 winning that championship and sitting on that bench in tears, knowing he had already resigned at midseason, decided he wasn't going to coach anymore, and what a finish for an incredible career as a coach.
How one-sided is this game? If Kansas was shut out this half, they'd still be leading by 7.
You're kind of rubbing it in here.
Well, it's just
total domination.
Amplify of what a first half tsunami this Marquette team ran into. 59-30.
And one of the things that All-American Dwayne Wade will learn in this game, or should learn from this game, that if you are a superstar, you have got to step up right at the start of the game and sense it. And sense that things aren't going your way and try to take over the game. He is actually kind of blended into this ball game. He's going to have solid stats, but not what you need from the guy that's got to put a team on the back when everything's going wrong.
And a huge ovation from the Kansas throng for Keith Langford.
So now you have all 3 top scorers for Kansas, Heinrich, Collison, and Langford on the bench.
And that chartered bus that the family and friends brought over from Fort Worth, it can stay put for a couple of extra days here. Hawkins in the game.
Cold, good inside position by Graves, and gets fouled. That would go into their 4 corners. He had the guts to stay back in his zone, did not go for the trap or the bait. And finally, when North Carolina got impatient, missed a shot, Marquette never looked back. Lee, the MOP of that tournament,
sent a telegram to the Marquette team this week that Butch Lee. He said, just remember, number 15 will be with you. Names like Butch Lee, Maurice Lucas, Jerome Whitehead, Bo Ellis, Dean Miminger brought back to mind this past week with this Marquette team making it to the Final Four. Miles inside, and that's swept away by Wade.
Diener, no place to go again.
And he lost control of it. Lee, little scoop. Graves tip in.
Merritt got a piece of that ball, took off some of the English. Let it drop right through. You know what, Jim, you're talking about Al and this Marquette program. He finished in the 70s. He was 8th in 70, 2nd in 71, 7th in 72, 5th in 73, 3rd in 74, 12th in 75. He was in the top 10 right on through to his last year. That program was probably right behind UCLA as the best during that period of time in the country.
Diener thought he'd made the three.
Yeah, he took off the other way, didn't he?
Miles, he was making a little move on Marquette, got away from him.
Well, did you think that some of the players that are presently on this floor with 4:42 to go, Jim, about 2 hours ago, that we'd expect to see out here? Vincent in the game right now.
Steven Vincent for Kansas, number 20. Freshman from Lawrence. And Nash with the read on that, forced the steal.
Excellent read by Nash on that play. Anticipated that it was going to be a pass, not a dribble. Now here you see the subs now executing the Kansas offense very well.
Nash with a three. Wade again. Silky smooth to set himself free, but
never shows any expression facially. But has been too patient in this game. And back in this defense, it really helps Kansas because there's no pressure really on the ball. No need to try to make a big play as Nash does there.
Third on Sanders.
Turnovers, inability to convert, shots not going in, errant passes, and just too much from every aspect. There you see when Wade got hit in the nose. Everything going wrong for this ball club.
Nice three-point play by Nash. We got Grimm in the game for Marquette. Chris Grimm, freshman from Brighton, Michigan. And Moulin Yon for Kansas, number 55.
Leon Wade. One matchup to watch here that's going to be interesting. And there's Wade again, Jim. So smooth.
18 delay for Wade.
Yeah, I mean, there's an 18-point game, which is a fine basketball game. But he's the kind of player who has to understand a day like today, a 30-point game is what he's got to do for his club. And he's capable.
And Diener coming in there to help force the tie-up and the arrow to Marquette.
And number 34, Christian Moody.
Kansas bringing in Brett Olson, the walk-on, and Nash sits after a big three-point play. Wade, turnaround three real quick.
And goes to the line for three.
Foul called on Vincent. Billy, how about assistant coach on the Marquette side? There is Trey Schwab. He needs a lung transplant. He's #1 on the list back in his region.
Well, he had to do some research to figure out that he would be capable of being within that 2-hour limit to get back home in case he gets that critical call.
Private plane at the ready the entire time he's been down here this week in New Orleans. The call ever came. Wish him so much luck here in the coming days. Trey Schwab, assistant to Coach Tom Crean.
Well, Wade, who's 78% free throw shooter, not getting what he wants.
Double up. And it's going back to Kansas.
There's a good break for Moody right there. That ball got tapped out because this is not the same as playing a scrub game back in Lawrence. I mean, you're right now at the Final Four playing some substantial minutes.
Outside three. How sweet it would have been for Vincent. Here's Diener. Rattles out. Grimm. Well done. Put back.
Here comes that full court pressure again. Rather meaningless pressure at this point in time. Jan does a good job there hanging on to the ball. Diener's hurt out there on the floor right now. I think he hurt his knee or his ankle.
Off the front of the rim, it was Olsen. Still belongs to Kansas.
Diener's going to come out.
Marquette number 10, Teron Bradley.
Bradley comes in for him. Chapman also.
There goes
Wade out.
Wade and Diener out of the ball game. Coach Crean realizing, and I guarantee he's talking to them right now, Jim, about next year when we get back into the Final Four, we'll be ready to play. That's what you've got to do, and you know that Tom Crean, with his psychological work with his team, is probably doing that right as we speak.
I tell you, it's a dynamic young coach, this Tom Crean. Vincent going to Moody, kicks it back out, and the three from the corner off the mark for Hawkins. Chase down Olsen. To Nyon. Jumper.
They keep getting offensive rebounds.
That was Moody with that offensive rebound. Number 34, Kansas, who went to Roy Williams High School back in Asheville, North Carolina.
And most of the starters from Kansas standing up on that sidelines, rooting like crazy for these guys to score.
They want to get them in the books with a basket.
Well, there was a sub one time from Kansas that got a chance to get in a Final Four game and get a shot up. Dean Smith.
He got 29 seconds, I believe.
That's right. I don't think Adolph Rupp ever got a chance to score. So there aren't many guys, the Bob Knights and the Dean Smiths, that had a chance to coach a national championship team and also play in a game.
That was the 1952 Final Four. The coach Dean Smith.
Isn't it amazing the connections between North Carolina and Kansas over the years in terms of Larry Brown, you know, a North Carolina grad, goes to Kansas, coaches them to a national championship. Roy Williams, a North Carolina grad, goes to Kansas, has him in a position now to play for one on Monday night. Dean Smith, a Kansas grad, goes to North Carolina and coaches championship.
Well, how about Dean Smith getting his championship in 1982, his first championship right here in the Superdome. Got his second one here also, and now Roy Williams Monday night will be playing for his first. It's been in that final before in 91, but Duke beat him 72-65.
Hey, there's a basket.
Give it to Nyon.
Well, this has been a tough day for Marquette and their basketball history, but great for Kansas.
They should savor those special wins they had, though, all season long, and then over Pitt and Kentucky last week. That's it.
Who would have believed it, huh?
Had that last basket gone in, it would have set the all-time Final Four record for the largest margin.